Hi, I'm Dave Morris, a volunteer with Preservation Houston, and I'm standing here with Jim Parsons, Programs Director for Preservation Houston. We've temporarily suspended our in-person walking tours, and until we start them back up again, we're bringing you video tours of historic places around Houston. Please be sure to check out our website, preservationhouston.org, where you can see our other video tours, and you can learn more about the work we do and how you can support us.
This is the fourth part in our 7-part series looking at the history and architecture along Lower Westheimer Road. And today, Dave and I are standing near the corner of Westheimer and Windsor at the west end of what's known as the Westheimer Curve. Now, Westheimer is generally an east-west street, but this section between Waugh and Windsor angles to the southwest, and the reason for that has its roots deep in Texas history. We mentioned in our last video that Westheimer Road was originally a country road leading to a farm near present-day River Oaks. But years before that, back in the days of the Republic of Texas, there was another road that came this way. It was called the Fort Bend Road, and it connected Houston with the town of Richmond. The Fort Bend Road ran diagonally across the prairie, and the section of Westheimer that angles to the southwest here still follows the alignment of that long-gone road.
The land on the north side of the Westheimer Curve was once a farm called Oak Grove that belonged to the second president of the Republic of Texas, Mirabeau B. Lamar. Around 1910, oilman Dillon Cherry bought most of the land that at that time was known as the Old Lamar Place and platted it as a new neighborhood that he named Cherryhurst. Although the nearby Montrose Place neighborhood was very popular, Cherryhurst didn't really catch on. In 1921, Cherry gave up on his neighborhood. He sold most of his property to home builder E.L. Crane, who did something here that was new for Houston. He acted not only as the neighborhood's developer, but also as its supplier, builder, and financier. Crane built bungalows along Cherryhurst streets and marketed them to Houston's growing middle class. Originally, Westheimer was one of the neighborhood's residential streets, but as we've talked about in our other Lower Westheimer videos, it started turning commercial in the 1930s. Many of the Cherryhurst homes facing Westheimer have been demolished over the years, but there are still some reminders of the street's residential beginnings in the area.
The house behind me is typical of the homes you would have seen along this stretch of Westheimer in the early 1920s. It was built in 1922 as a Tudor-style cottage. That's an English-inspired style that was very popular in Houston neighborhoods in the 1920s and 30s. And even though it's had its windows changed and the house has been painted a uniform purple, its original lines are still visible. The steep roof, prominent front gable, and decorative half-timbered effects are all typical features of Tudor cottages. Some Tudor homes had more elaborate decoration like ornamental brick and stonework, but this one had a simple stucco exterior that gave it a clean, more modern look. The house was a residence for the first 25 or so years of its life. It had its first commercial tenant in the late 1940s and then went back and forth between business and residential occupants for a while. Tenants have included a ceramic studio, a doctor's office, several antique stores, and the current occupant, a smoke shop.
The house next door was built around 1923. It's an example of a Craftsman Bungalow, a house style that was popular in Cherryhurst and many other early 20th century Houston neighborhoods. Craftsman homes stress simplicity in design. Typical Craftsman features include low-pitched roofs, wide overhanging eaves with exposed brackets, and inviting front porches. The porch has been enclosed here, but the rest of the house's front facade hasn't changed all that much. Like its neighbor, this property turned commercial in the 1940s. It housed a Spanish language school for more than 25 years before becoming a gift shop, art gallery, and vintage clothing store. The building is used as office space today.
A lot of homes along Lower Westheimer were converted to businesses over the years, but some buildings were built as commercial properties, like the one across the street. E.L. Crane, the Cherryhurst developer, built it in 1922 as a neighborhood market called the Cherryhurst Stores. The building contained a grocery store, a butcher counter, a produce market, a bakery, and a pharmacy, all in the same building but under separate management. It was set up more like an old-style market than a modern grocery. One early ad promised everything for the housewife under one roof. The building has been divided into separate shops over the years, but still looks a lot like it did when it opened nearly a century ago. Notice the exposed brackets under the eaves, which complement details on the bungalows that Crane built in the neighborhood.
The last building we want to point out today looks like a house at first glance, but it was actually built as Fire Station Number 16. It opened in 1924 to serve the neighborhoods of Southwest Houston, which in those days extended as far southwest as Holcomb and Greenbrier. A fire station that looks like a house may seem unusual today, but back in the 1920s, a lot of suburban fire stations were designed to fit in with their neighborhoods. Architect W.A. Dowdy gave Station 16 a bungalow-style exterior with a wide front porch, which originally had a swing. The 10 firemen stationed here maintained a small front yard, complete with a rose garden. The only real clue to the building's use was the attached garage bay for the fire truck, which has been enclosed. Fire Station 16 relocated to a larger building at Richmond and Dunleavy in 1979. A couple of years later, the Neartown Association bought this building and, with the help of a group of volunteers, renovated it as a nonprofit community center and art gallery. The building now houses county offices.
And that's it for this segment of our Lower Westheimer video tour. Be sure and keep an eye out for our next segment, where we'll be exploring the area around Westheimer and Mandel, a couple of blocks west of here. Remember that you can subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss any future video releases.
And if you visit our website, preservationhouston.org, you'll learn more about the work we do and how you can support us by making a donation or becoming a member. And you can follow us on social media to see even more content about Houston's history and architecture. A special thanks to David Putz for researching this tour, and thanks to you for joining us. See you next time.